Florida, the Sunshine State, is globally famous for its year-round warmth, stunning beaches, and diverse ecosystems. But beneath the inviting weather and vibrant tourism lies an unavoidable truth. Florida is a prime target for one of nature's most violent phenomena, hurricanes. Located between the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico, Florida's geography makes it a frequent landing spot for these intense tropical cyclones. The state's flat terrain and extensive coastline amplify the destruction caused by storm surges and high winds. In 2024, yet another hurricane season tested Florida's preparedness, bringing forth storms of extraordinary power that affected millions. However, these storms were only the most recent in a centuries-long battle of hurricanes. Florida's history is intertwined with these forces of nature, and each storm has shaped its infrastructure, economy, and culture in profound ways. This documentary explores the devastation brought by the 2024 hurricanes and traces the history of these storms in Florida. From early colonial times to the modern age of climate change, we will dive into how hurricanes have affected the people of Florida and how the state has learned to live with their recurring presence. The 2024 hurricane season in Florida. 2024 was a year of heightened anxiety in Florida as predictions from meteorologists warned of an above-average hurricane season. Warmer than usual sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, coupled with changing wind patterns due to a weakening El Niño, created the ideal conditions for multiple significant storms. The state's emergency management teams worked tirelessly to prepare for the worst, knowing that even one direct hit from a major hurricane could lead to catastrophic damage. The season's first storm, Hurricane Amelia, formed in late June. While it was only a Category 2 storm when it brushed the southern tip of Florida, Amelia brought heavy rains that caused significant flooding in Miami-Dade and Monroe counties. Many neighborhoods were inundated with several feet of water, leaving residents struggling to recover. However, it was Hurricane Fiona in August that would be remembered as one of the most devastating storms in recent memory. Fiona formed quickly, gaining strength as it moved through the Caribbean. By the time it reached Florida's west coast, it had grown into a Category 4 hurricane, with winds reaching up to 145 miles per hour. Fiona made landfall near Fort Myers, a city still reeling from Hurricane Ian in 2022. Fiona's wind speeds and storm surge devastated coastal communities. Over 200,000 homes were damaged or destroyed, and parts of Fort Myers Beach were once again submerged under a storm surge that reached over 12 feet. Despite extensive efforts to rebuild and fortify structures after Ian, Fiona's impact proved that even newer, stronger buildings were not invincible to the forces of nature. Power outages affected nearly 4 million people, with some areas remaining in the dark for weeks. Rescue teams scrambled to reach those stranded by floodwaters, while emergency shelters struggled to accommodate the influx of displaced families. The human toll of Fiona was steep, with dozens of fatalities reported and countless families left homeless. The state's emergency infrastructure was pushed to its limits, as were the resilience and resolve of its citizens. Hurricane Garrett followed in September, this time targeting Miami and the Florida Keys. Although it made landfall as a Category 3 storm, Garrett's compact nature made it deceptively powerful. Downtown Miami faced extensive flooding, as did the Keys, where the low-lying islands were particularly vulnerable to the storm's surge. Garrett's fast-moving winds tore through neighborhoods, leaving many homes in ruins. Then came Hurricane Leila in October. Although it was only a Category 1 storm, Leila dumped massive amounts of rain across northern Florida, particularly around Jacksonville and the Florida Panhandle. Flash flooding from swollen rivers damaged thousands of homes and created dangerous conditions for both residents and rescue workers. In total, the 2024 season was responsible for over $60 billion in damage to the state, with long-lasting effects on Florida's economy and infrastructure. While the 2024 hurricane season will undoubtedly go down in history as one of the most damaging, it is by no means the only time that Florida has faced devastation from these storms. To fully understand the impact of hurricanes on Florida, we must look at the state's long history with these powerful forces of nature. A history of hurricanes in Florida. Florida's recorded encounters with hurricanes stretch back to the 1500s, with early Spanish explorers and Native American tribes such as the Calusa and Timucua learning to coexist with the storm-prone region. Indigenous peoples had developed methods for surviving hurricanes, building elevated homes and passing down knowledge of how to predict and prepare for storms. One of the earliest hurricanes in Florida's written history occurred in 1559, when a powerful storm destroyed a Spanish settlement in Pensacola. This storm marked the beginning of a turbulent relationship between Florida and hurricanes, with each storm etching its mark on the region's history. The 1900s, Florida's vulnerability becomes apparent. As Florida's population exploded during the early 20th century, the destructive power of hurricanes became increasingly evident. More people meant more infrastructure, and that meant more opportunities for devastation. One of the most notorious storms from this era was the 1926 Miami hurricane, a Category 4 storm that made landfall directly over Miami. With winds exceeding 130 miles per hour, the storm decimated much of the city. The official death toll was estimated at around 372, but the true number may never be known due to the lack of advanced communication and record-keeping at the time. The financial cost was staggering, over $100 million, equivalent to around $1.5 billion today, plunging Miami into a severe economic downturn. Another monumental storm struck in 1935, known as the Labor Day hurricane. It remains one of the most intense hurricanes ever recorded in U.S. history, with sustained winds of 185 miles per hour. The storm wreaked havoc on the Florida Keys, completely destroying the overseas railroad and causing over 400 deaths, including many World War I veterans who were working on a project in the Keys. This storm stands as a grim reminder of the raw power hurricanes can unleash. Later, in 1960, Hurricane Donna cut across Florida, leaving a swath of damage that reached as far as New England. Donna's hurricane-force winds affected a wide range of areas from the Keys to Jacksonville. Its immense size and destructive force created flooding that left many towns struggling to recover for months. This was an early signal to Floridians that hurricanes were not just a southern or coastal problem, but a statewide threat. Modern hurricanes: Andrew, Charlie, Irma, and Ian. Moving into the modern era, Hurricane Andrew stands as a critical turning point in Florida's hurricane history. In August 1992, Andrew slammed into Homestead, Florida as a Category 5 hurricane. Winds of over 165 miles per hour devastated entire communities, and the total damages from Andrew exceeded $27 billion. With more than 65,000 homes destroyed, Andrew left tens of thousands of people homeless and exposed major gaps in Florida's disaster preparedness. In the wake of Andrew, Florida implemented stricter building codes, mandating that new structures be built to withstand the intense winds that accompany major hurricanes. The storm also revolutionized the way the state approached emergency management, making it a pivotal event in the modernization of hurricane preparedness. The new century brought further examples of Florida's vulnerability to hurricanes. In 2004, Hurricane Charlie struck Punta Gorda and left a trail of destruction across the state. Charlie, though small in size, packed a Category 4 punch, causing $16 billion in damages and reinforcing the necessity for stronger building standards, particularly in older, less prepared communities. In 2017, Hurricane Irma became a chilling reminder of Florida's exposure to the world's most powerful hurricanes. Irma, a Category 5 storm at its peak, was a massive system, with winds reaching 180 miles per hour as it approached the Florida Keys. The entire state was put on alert as the storm's path shifted unpredictably. Evacuation orders were issued for more than 6 million residents, making it one of the largest evacuations in U.S. history. When Irma made landfall in the Keys, it was a Category 4 storm, and as it moved up the state, it left behind a trail of destruction from the southern tip to northern Florida. Irma's storm surge flooded coastal areas, including parts of Jacksonville, and caused significant damage to the state's agriculture, infrastructure, and economy. The cost of recovery surpassed $50 billion, and it took months for the state to fully recover. Then came Hurricane Ian in 2022. Ian struck the west coast of Florida, with its strongest impact centered on the Fort Myers area. A Category 4 storm with winds of 150 miles per hour, Ian's storm surge decimated barrier islands and coastal areas. With over $112 billion in damage, it became one of the costliest hurricanes in U.S. history. Ian left an indelible mark on the state, and just 2 years later, in 2024, the region would face Fiona. The science of hurricanes and Florida's future. Understanding why Florida is so frequently targeted by hurricanes requires some understanding of the science behind these storms. Hurricanes form over warm ocean waters, which act as fuel for the storm's development. The warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean provide an ideal breeding ground for hurricanes, especially during the late summer and early fall when ocean temperatures are at their highest. Additionally, Florida's position relative to the tropical latitudes places it in the path of many Atlantic storms. As hurricanes form off the coast of Africa and move westward across the Atlantic, they are often steered toward the southeastern U.S. by the prevailing winds in the region. However, as climate change continues to alter global weather patterns, scientists warn that hurricanes may become even more frequent and intense. Warmer ocean temperatures are likely to fuel stronger storms, while rising sea levels increase the risk of catastrophic storm surges. Florida, with its extensive coastline and low-lying terrain, is particularly at risk from these effects. Hurricanes are a fact of life in Florida, with each storm leaving a legacy of destruction but also resilience. From the early Spanish settlers who first encountered these terrifying storms to modern Floridians who rely on advanced technology and preparedness, the state's relationship with hurricanes has been long and complex. The 2024 hurricane season served as yet another reminder of the dangers that lie ahead. As climate change continues to reshape the planet, Florida must remain vigilant, prepared, and adaptable in the face of an uncertain future. While hurricanes bring immense destruction, they also reveal the strength and perseverance of the people who live through them. Florida's history with hurricanes is a testament to human resilience and the power of community, and as the state looks to the future, it will continue to find ways to survive and thrive, even in the face of nature's most formidable forces.